Hi people, it's me again, Marino Ravenberg. I have a topic that I'm briefly going to discuss as usual. Hold on, I placed a reminder for myself. Yeah, in this video I'm going to be discussing why it is so hard to kill someone through magical means. So this means killing someone by utilizing a magical system. For example, summoning a spirit, telling that spirit, listen, I want you to kill that person for me, and that spirit killing that person. This is something that's nearly impossible to pull off magically or esoterically. And the reason for that, I'm going to explain it. Specifically, when it comes to, especially based on my practice, Western ceremonial magic, the kind of occultism I occupy myself with. But magical systems overall, at the very least, magical systems that are known, no, not at the least, magical systems that are known across the globe. So it doesn't matter whether it's witchcraft, whether it's pagan magic, whether it is any other kind of magic, anything, any kind of spirit work, or any kind of occult working, or any working of an occult nature. The reason it's so hard to pull off is simply due to one phrase: blowback or recoil, if you will. When you try to kill someone, it takes a ridiculous amount of energy, and more often than not, the person doesn't deserve to be killed. The person does not deserve to be killed. So if you still go ahead with that, then you better believe that person that you're going to have to pay that one hell of a karmic price. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, make no mistake about it. Even if it works, then it could seriously take a good while before the person actually dies. We're talking about at least a year. And of course, it's going to happen gradually, for example, through illness, through whatever you can think of. But bottom line is, what I'm saying is correct, obviously. The point is that by default, in every magical working, okay, thing that you need to keep in mind is karma. You can't hurt someone innocent. That's rule 101 in magic. Every jackass knows that, so to speak. You can't hurt someone through magical means without, if you go too far in terms of hurting someone by magical means, automatically it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. For example, the threefold law is applicable here. What you send out will come back to you multifold. I don't know if it's specifically threefold, I haven't looked into it, nor do I care, but I do know for sure that it's going to come back to you multifold. So, simple example, let's just say that I have an enemy, and this enemy did me wrong, he took advantage of me, blah blah blah, you name it. This enemy, we were colleagues at a certain location where I worked, and he made me lose my job. Um, he made me lose my job. Of course, I want payback, but payback doesn't involve killing the person. This is something that, for example, I've told customers of mine several times, because sometimes they're filled with. The thing is that anger takes a hold of you, and your lust for revenge is so great that it blinds you to reality. And I've told customers of mine in certain instances, as in, hey, listen, be realistic about this. That person, regardless of what he or she did to you, okay, based on what you explained to me, that person doesn't deserve what you've got in mind. So be realistic, remain rational. Okay, that's why you always need to keep a cool head. In this context, for example, what would be suitable as a means of revenge is that I bring about misfortune, mild to semi-great misfortune to my enemy. The guy made me lose my job back when I worked somewhere, and he bad-mouthed me, and I lost friends as a result. Okay, do the same thing to him, twice as bad. Okay, make the guy lose his job, make him go through some hard financial times, and make him, for example, break up with his wife, make him divorce his wife, and make his kids excommunicate him for a short while at least, as in not wanting to talk to him. That is, rationally speaking, a suitable alternative, or a suitable, in terms of revenge, that is a suitable level of comeuppance, if you will. See, that's what I'm talking about. That is reasonable. But sometimes people are so angry that they just want to say, I want the fucker to die, I want this guy to burn alive and all of that. No, 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 no. It's obvious that your intended victim, your enemy slash victim, does not deserve what you have in mind, because what you have in mind isn't based on rational thought. So, for example, for starters, killing someone through magical means 9 out of 10 times is not applicable even, because it's going way too far. And even when it's warranted, in the highly unlikely and rarest of circumstances, when killing someone would be applicable, you need to be careful of not overstepping your karmic boundaries, because it's like expressing in numbers. For example, your enemy deserves number 5, and you just going all the way to number 15. The subtraction thereof, so 10, will come back to you by karmic law, because you don't deserve that. Your enemy didn't deserve to die. You killed the guy, but the guy didn't deserve death. So you're going to pay for it, and it's pretty much going to be karmically subtracted to your karmic total, so to speak. And yeah, you'll suffer greatly. It's like when you see people, for example, magically binding someone to them. For example, lovers. A woman binds a man to himself or herself. A woman binds a man to herself because she loves the man and she wants to be with the man, but at the same time, she wants that man to only have eyes for her or be completely subservient to her, which is obviously wrong, okay? Because what you're doing, you're basically taking away that person's right of choice magically. So that guy will turn into that woman's slave, and that's obviously not right. And that woman is going to suffer the karmic consequences. She'll get what she wants, she might have her man, but she's going to spend the rest of her life in misery. Even when she's with the guy, things are not going to go well. For example, they're going to bicker and pick fights and all that stuff. They're going to constantly have heavily argumentative fights, yelling at each other, all of that stuff that you could possibly imagine. All of that negativity. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's obviously not deserved. So the point is that killing someone through magical means, okay, 9 out of 10 times is overstepping your karmic boundary. Not just killing someone, but any kind of magical working overall by default. It's not an issue. Karma is usually not an issue for mundane things that people want, whether it's money, sex, love, power, it doesn't matter. For general human affairs, no issue, okay? But when you go to something, when you request something that extreme, you need to ask yourself, does my victim really deserve to get what he wants? You need to rationally think. And believe me, 99 out of 100 times the answer will be no. No one in general deserves to be killed, regardless of what they did to you. If they deserve it, make no mistake about it, you won't face any karmic backlash. But generally speaking, yeah, people that don't think rationally tend to overstep their boundaries, or want to overstep their boundaries, and it's gonna come back to bite you in the ass karmically. I, for example, the way that I'm sitting here, I don't wish death upon a single enemy of mine. I've already dealt with all of my enemies, but even if I still have enemies, I wouldn't wish death upon them, because they don't deserve to die, regardless of how much they wrong me. They don't deserve to die. They don't deserve death. They deserve pain and misery. I personally don't want to kill someone. It's much more fun to make someone suffer rather than to kill that person. Killing that person simply happens outright, and it's in short in general, even if it's under the most gruesomest of circumstances. Doesn't matter. For example, the person contracts a long-standing illness like cancer and drops dead. Bruh. I wouldn't wish that upon my enemies in general. I just want them to suffer. But I have never lost sight of rational thoughts. I have never said to myself, listen, I have never requested something unreasonably. Okay? Even if you were to request something unreasonably, if you work with a spirit, that spirit will give you what you're due. He won't give you what you're asking for because he knows better. And he leaves it up to you to actually become aware of this. And you will. I mean, if you're an occultist like me, for example, and you have a decent amount of, not like me even, you have a decent amount of experience, okay, at best, then yeah, you'll come to this realization as quickly as possible. You're swiftly going to come to this realization that it's not, no, it's unreasonable, okay, it's unreasonable. If I, for example, let's just say I had an enemy and I wanted him killed, having him killed will literally make me suffer heavy backlash. And especially if you're an occultist and your working is of a celestial nature, then it's not gonna happen. because these spirits, the spirits that you work with will automatically protect you. If you work with angels, for example, they'll automatically protect you. They'll give you your enemy what he's due, what he deserves, or what she deserves. But they're not going to do something like they're not going to overstep any karmic boundary. And generally speaking, depending on the context, they'll notify you of it. They'll tell you that, listen, the guy doesn't deserve that, okay? This is what we can do, but the guy doesn't deserve what you've got in mind, or the woman doesn't deserve what you've got in mind. When do you see examples of people that have faced karmic backlash through magical means? When do you see people pulling off stuff like that? In non-celestial forms of magic, in pagan forms of magic, for example, and even in pagan magic, it's rare because pagan gods also have standards, believe it or not. I've covered some of them that I've covered more than a couple of them have. It turned out to be the case with them, where you wouldn't even expect a malevolent pagan entity to have standards, but even they have standards. The finest example that I can give of where people overstep their boundary, magically speaking, within a karmic context is within witchcraft. Forms of magic that rely upon the self, self-generating, self-energy generating forms of magic. So when you're going to generate that energy, it doesn't matter what the energy source is, and it's all you, as in, okay, it's all you. What you do, your problem, okay, completely your problem. Then yeah, that's what's going to happen to you, okay? And that's why I've seen it with people, and these people that committed witchcraft to some malevolent act, and they literally went too far. They had really evil and malevolent thoughts. They were bad people in general, and they paid for it multifold. You make someone lose an arm, you'll lose an arm and a leg. You, for example, curse someone through witchcraft by simply unleashing your own generated spiritual energy upon that person. For example, even in the form of an egregore, and it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. The egregore is just an example. In general, people that practice witchcraft don't really use egregores. I'm just using the phrase egregore in a loose fashion. Under egregore, you can understand any kind of self-generated energy, not the kind of egregore specifically I create. The egregores I create are entities. This is just I just mentioned it for good measure as an example. Bottom line is, when someone does something like that, person generates energy, unleashes it upon a person, a target, as in, hey, I want that person, cursed. But that person didn't deserve it. Then, what do you think is going to happen? You make that person, metaphorically speaking, lose an arm, you're going to lose an arm and both your legs. You make that person lose a finger, you're going to lose the entire arm. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. A simple example is, for example, just one more example before I go, is I read a ridiculous story, highly credible. It's a local story, not that it matters, but about a woman. I think I covered it in a separate video in my playlist story time. Bottom line is, I read a story a while ago. That's a perfect example of overstepping your karmic boundary. Of a woman. A woman that was jealous of her female neighbor, and these were mostly hillbilly types, so they do stuff like borrow sugar from each other and all that crap, stuff that I highly detest and loathe. And she wanted to borrow that woman's dress, her neighbor's dress, and the neighbor said, no, I don't want to. And out of jealousy, she cursed that dress, and the dress ended up burning up on her neighbor without it hurting her. So her neighbor stood there naked. And what do you think happened to the woman that cursed it? So the actual woman that committed that malevolent act. As if I recall, something bad happened to her, really bad happened to her for sure. I'm not sure if I remember the story correctly, but bottom line is, I think as the story if I recall, or as the story goes, that she got involved in a car accident that left her partially paralyzed, and she had to spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. There you go. That's an example of, I don't know if the story really went that way, but bottom line is, something really misfortunate happened to that person. And yeah, just goes to show you. You wish ill upon someone as in, okay, listen, I want that person to become sick with a serious case of the flu for a year. But that person didn't deserve it. What do you think is going to happen? you're going to seriously get a case of cancer that's going to affect you for at least half of your life or at least a decade. See what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. It's overstepping your karmic boundaries. That's why in the occult, it's so hard to kill someone because most, especially Western forms of magic or occultism utilize, rely heavily on celestial beings. And these beings will automatically not do anything like that because they do not commit any evil acts. It doesn't even have to be angels. We're talking about elemental spirits, all spirits that are of a pure and holy nature, or all energies of such a nature will not come. They won't even think about doing something like that. Doesn't matter how much you ask them. Worse yet, they're going to shun you in the long term. If they see that you're a legitimately evil person, or you're someone that legitimately has bad thoughts or bad intentions, then yeah, they believe me, they won't help you and they'll pretty much shun you and they'll notify others too. Spirits also talk about each other, not about each other, but about people amongst each other, magical practitioners like me and so on. So yeah, if you'll end up with no spirit wanting to work with you. And like I said, even if malevolent pagan entities or pagan entities that tend to have been demonized have standards, as in, I'm not doing that because I don't want to out of morals. They have morals and values as well. Then you can imagine, I mean, even if you were to ask a demon, a fallen angel, Lucifer, for example, it just goes on. Believe me, not gonna happen in general. It's highly unlikely. Uh, and it will come at a tremendous cost. So yeah, if you want to commit to the magical workings of such a nature, then witchcraft would be your best bet. So energy-based work that is reliant upon the cells. So you generate energy and you boom dispatch that energy towards a target or towards any goal or objective. Believe me, if you overstep your karmic boundary, you legitimately know common sense tells you that, hey, listen, you can't do this. This is not right. As in, that person doesn't deserve person doesn't deserve what you've got in store or what you've got in stock or in mind. It's it's gonna come back to bite you in the ass, literally and figuratively speaking. Not once, multiple times. That's all. I'll see you guys later. Bye.